Welcome to From Betrayal to Breakthrough. I'm Dr. Debi Silber, and today's guest is Dr. Anna Cabeca. And Dr. Anna is a triple board certified Emory University trained physician and hormone expert who was diagnosed with early menopause at age 38. Devastated, she set out on a personal wellness journey to reverse her menopause side effects, which resulted in her delivery of a healthy baby girl at the age of 41. Dr. Cabeca began counseling others, ultimately changing the lives of thousands of women across the globe. Her new book, The Hormone Fix, and other empowering transformation programs have helped women of all ages become their best selves again. Her successful line of all-natural products features the alkaline superfoods drink Mighty Maca Plus and the rejuvenating Vulva Cream Vulva. Recently, Dr. Cabeca was named 2018 Innovator of the Year by Mindshare Collaborative, the premier community for health and wellness influencers and entrepreneurs. I was there and I saw her win that. In 2017, the Age Management Medicine Group presented her the prestigious Alan P. Mintz Award for Clinical Excellence. And you've heard me speak about being betrayed by a partner, family member, a friend, coworker, even being betrayed by yourself. But you're about to meet my friend, Dr. Anna Cabeca, who's going to talk all about how we can be betrayed by our hormones. If you're feeling exhausted, disconnected, uninspired, and more, it could be your hormones, and you're going to learn why. Here's Dr. Anna. Okay, so, I am so excited all the time to introduce my amazing guests. And today, one in particular, I just know you are going to absolutely love her, my friend, Dr. Anna Cabeca. And you know what? You will just learn how we can be betrayed by our hormones. So we're going to talk all about it. Welcome, Dr. Anna.
It is great to be here with you, Debbie. Thank you so much for having me. And I love this topic, betrayed by our hormones, because often we don't realize how much physiology drives our behavior.
And let's talk about that, because when, our behavior is very different once we've been blindsided by a betrayal experience and all that goes with it, as far as mentally and emotionally, of course, physically. So walk us through some of the just even the physical things that can happen. How does that affect our hormones, and what do you see?
Yeah. And that's been a big one. And one thing that when we talk about, when we're faced with a life-changing event, small or large, it affects our hormones. One of the main hormones that are released is cortisol. So cortisol is our fight and flight responding hormone, and comes to our rescue to kind of calm things down, put the body into a high speed mode, and that we can react appropriately. But for too many of us, and for too long, that hormone tends to run amok and destroy many of our hormonal relationships, let's say, because hormones have relationships too. And so when this cortisol comes in as the great disconnector. So one of the major hormones that cortisol affects is our oxytocin, our hormone of love and connection. So when we've experienced betrayal, when we've experienced trauma, when we've experienced divorce, when we experienced a loss of a job, an unforeseen diagnosis, or the threat of a bad diagnosis medically or otherwise, we can experience this oxytocin cortisol disconnect, and we start to retreat. We start to feel alone. We start to not feel love, not feel joy, not feel peace, because those are all governed by this hormone oxytocin.
So if you could really break this down even further. So we're feeling these things because of the betrayal, but you're saying we're feeling this because of the hormones?
Yes. Yeah. So it's a combination, right? So physiology drives behavior. So here we've been exposed to this. In my experience, it's post-traumatic stress after, trauma in our family. And so if I hadn't experienced this, Debbie, and I know you're on your mission because of experiencing this trauma, if I hadn't experienced, I wouldn't have been able to understand, because I always said I had a passion for life, but no desire to live it after this. And And it was that situation where I had to think, okay, no longer loving my work, no longer loving my husband, like prior to trauma, difficult marriage, but wanted it to work. Post-trauma, didn't want anything, right? And so there was that disconnect. And the same with work, and the same understanding how this constant in PTSD, the flashbacks, the trauma, the memories kept driving up cortisol, even though my environment was relatively peaceful. The internal environment was chaos. So that internal hormonal chaos drives these other emotional hormones away. So we lose the neuroprotective effect of progesterone, one of our mother hormones, when we're pushing cortisol, when we're responding to stress, when we've dealt with stress. And you combine that with midlife progesterone decline. So in the 40s, certainly in the 50s, but even as early as 35, we start to see that dip in progesterone. That's a neuroprotective hormone. So when we're pushing cortisol, there is notably less circulating progesterone, which is our mother hormone. And so or oxytocin's suppressed. So further sleeplessness, further wide awake, further irritability, PMS symptoms, moody, and agitation. And so many of my clients had said, Dr. Ann, I don't even feel like I'm myself anymore. Just that feeling of a change of personality.
And I think, so often we just attribute it to maybe a change in our role, let's say as moms, for example. Maybe the kids are a little bit older and they don't need us as much, and we sort of don't know our next stage or place, and it's so easy to attribute it to so many other things. And I wouldn't necessarily think that it's a hormonal thing.
Yeah. But it's that change. Like think about, I talk with my friends who are empty nesters. Now, I'm nearly 53 with a 10-year-old Debi, so that's a long way off for me. But I talk with my friends who are empty nesters, and, and some of them, they like all of a sudden for the first time, they're experiencing loneliness, depression, mood swings, and all of these emotions are arising. And bottom line is you finally have time to experience those things. So bottom line, there's that aspect. You finally have time. And then also, it's a different level of stress. So you have that adjustment phase. So when we go through that adjustment phase, it's like our bodies are our hormones are also beefing up, learning to communicate again. We're redefining our lives. So the principles and practices that we create help us create a healthier physiology. So how we deal with this transition time, the mental framework we put around it, that helps. So I always say physiology drives behavior, so we can use our behavior to improve our physiology.
All right, so let's go there. So now here we are, because there are so many women, I would say 40 to 60, who listen to this podcast and they're struggling. I mean, they're reeling from their betrayals. They want to heal. Their betrayal may have even been years, if not decades ago, but they're seeing the impact physically or mentally and emotionally. And maybe, some of them are kind of numb and they've lost that desire to do much of anything. Where do we go from here?
Yeah, well, I call that the loss of desire to connect. Right? So that is that disconnect. So often when we've had this trauma and it's, suppressed our oxytocin, we get that burnout. We get that feeling of disconnect. We walk into a restaurant and we see people we've known for 20 years and we ignore them. We pretend they don't see us. We don't, it's like, well, maybe that was just me, but I experienced that. So, it's that like, that. And that's the absolute opposite behavior of what we need to do. So we need to do behaviors that increase our oxytocin, even when they don't feel we don't want to. It's like, never happy. Well, personally, I'm never happy to go to the gym, but I'm always glad I went type of phenomena.
Yep.
So the same with this. We have to create oxytocin-seeking behavior, healthy behaviors. And I want to come back to this, Debi, because I just started talking about oxytocin-seeking behaviors, and I think it's something really important to mention. But first, let me talk about behaviors that increase our oxytocin naturally.
Yes, please.
So it's giving of yourself in charity. I have one daughter, a beautiful daughter. My stepdaughter who's 30, and she started volunteering at this House of Hope we created to help girls, young victims of sex trafficking. So she was dealing, she'd been living on her own in Hawaii for 10 years and then now came back here. And this beautiful girl was just kind of struggling with redefining, coming back home and redefining herself. So once she started giving of herself, giving art classes to these young, 12 to 16-year-old girls, she just like, oh my gosh, this is so wonderful. Like her world brightened colors. Wow. And from an artist, she could really feel that. Like the world just started getting colorful again. That's so huge. That's oxytocin. When we give, we receive so much more. And so that increases oxytocin. The other thing, of course, is love.
And you know what? And I'm going to stop you right there because it's so true how when we are, when we're really not feeling good, I always suggest that to my kids, my clients, myself, that's when you give and you may think, well, I have nothing to give, but it doesn't matter. You give of your time, whatever, but it makes you feel better. You're so right.
Yes. Yeah. And that's that power of oxytocin. I'm so proud of her for seeing it and experiencing. And it's like, okay, we'll never forget that. That's so important. But I know how hard it is when you're feeling down and the world's dark. But thank God, like I always say, thank God for good friends. And then just creating and podcasts like this with you, just giving them information, hope and direction, because that is so true. So the next way, is lovemaking, certainly with, physical stimulation, self-pleasuring, that increases oxytocin. So that's one way. Massage, facials, deep breath, anything that we can do to decrease cortisol also increases oxytocin. So deep breathing, meditation, yoga, that will help. Getting outside in nature, that will really help. And I'm just laughing because I thought about your mural right now behind you.
Right, and I have to explain because. Right, because there's this is audio, but Dr. Anna, we always start with video because I want to see everyone's beautiful face. And behind me, here I am at the PBT, Post-Betrayal Transformation Institute, and behind my desk is this huge. It looks like a meadow, but it really is just a mural. But it makes me feel good. And so if I can't be outside, you're right. I look at that and it just makes me feel good. So I can see how absolutely nature it works. And I know whenever I am in nature, I'm at the beach by trees, I feel so much better. So there's something you can definitely feel the difference.
Absolutely. So you put yourself there, like perceived or real, it helps our physiology. So those are the principles and practices to live by. And so that's an incredible way. And other things like playing with a pet. Oh my gosh, pets are unconditionally loving for the most part. I'm a dog person, not a cat person. So my dogs are unconditionally loving.
And do you know, it's so funny because we have 6 dogs. And so we really took that to the next level there. But I specifically remember here I am getting our 6th dog, who happens to be a golden doodle, which should have been a first dog, not a 6th, but that's okay. And I remember thinking, we are just going to absolutely get so much oxytocin. Like I remember specifically thinking that because I had one daughter at the time who could have used the benefit of some extra oxy. And I thought a dog is a great way to do it. So it's so interesting you're saying that.
Absolutely. Absolutely. Unconditionally loving. And then laughter, anything that we can do that makes us laugh. I have a dear associate going through surgery next week. And I'm like, make sure you've got your funny videos, your favorite podcast that will make you laugh and just be immersed in that, because oxytocin is the great healing hormone. And we know from studies out of Berkeley in California that looked at aged muscle. So those of us with muscles over 70, and increasing oxytocin increased the muscle cell regeneration. So basically anti-aging. We know that happy marriages are a key to a longer and healthier life than unhappy marriages, right? And so oxytocin plays a huge role in this. And Debi, one of my favorite comparisons, we all talk about resveratrol, right? That key antioxidant in red wine. But my argument is it really the resveratrol, or is it the family and friends you're socializing with as you drink that glass of wine? I would vote the latter. So a glass of red wine by yourself at night is not antioxidant producing.
Well, and you know what? That's so interesting that you say that, because first of all, don't you have to drink like gallons of it to get the amount that you need? That's number one.
I'm all for that, but if it would work.
And I don't drink, so I wouldn't know. But the other thing is, it's so interesting because I remember we took a trip, we were in Italy, and I loved watching. It just seemed like everybody I saw, it was these little clusters of friends and family, and it was all about the socializing and the drinking. And I can see how it just looked, I mean, it looked like they were having the best time, and it was all about that balance there, and that really enjoying each other's company. And, imagine here we were, a family of 6, and we're walking into a store, and we were so impressed, really impressed, because that could have been a big sale for this store owner. But it was time for their, get together with their friends or family, whatever. And they said, oh, come back. We're shutting down for, because they're taking lunch or whatever. And at first I was shocked because it goes so far. It's so different from what we're used to. But when you think about it, they had the right idea.
Yes, they absolutely did. That time, that prioritization is key. So hence, again, behaviors driving your physiology.
Wow.
Yeah, I love that. I love that.
Yeah. So talk to us about, you wanted to get back to another part of oxytocin.
Yes, oxytocin seeking behavior. So often in my experience and with many clients, when we've experienced this trauma, oxytocin is low, cortisol is reeling at first and then plummets. And so we really get that burnout disconnect. But what happens in the interim is sometimes oxytocin seeking behavior. It's a way to self-medicate, and some destructive oxytocin seeking behavior is multiple sexual experiences. So seeking sex, for instance, because sex will increase oxytocin. Orgasm increases oxytocin. And so that's undeniable. So there's that. There's also, binge eating. As we expand our stomach, that can actually increase oxytocin by stimulation through the vagus nerve. So binge eating, shopping excessively, gambling excessively, thrill-seeking behaviors can all increase oxytocin and dopamine, and that is self-medicating behavior. So there's I want to say, if we've, partaken in any of that, if there's any guilt over any of that, just remove it, because you were just surviving. And you were surviving. And so we were surviving. And so just to, again, remove, I was telling a friend recently, when I did my traveling around the world, I went to Peru, and in the Andean philosophies, they have 3 animals that they associate with the journey through life. The first being the snake, and the snake every year sheds its skin. So with that, we shed guilt, shame, fear, negativity, and just rebirth anew. And so that's where we need to stand. Okay, we recognize that, what's past is past. We shed that and move forward. And so the second is the puma, that each of us, while we're designed to live in community, we have our own individual journey on earth at this time. And then the third being the condor, that higher spiritual connection and awareness. And one thing that I really believe, that once we're through menopause and those hormonal fluctuations and changes from our hormones, we can really attain this higher spiritual connection. And in my book, The Hormone Fix, I talk about the keto green way to get there, to really get clarity and to get, nourish our bodies, and also create the lifestyle that helps us get into this higher state of spiritual peace, which I know I needed so badly.
Right. No, absolutely. So okay. So let's just imagine someone listening right now. She's in her 40s or 50s, just struggling, feeling disconnected. She's exhausted. She's struggling with her weight. She wants that sense of peace. She wants to feel connected. Where would you take her? How do you lead her to a better place?
Yeah. So first it's self-care, right? So we want to start with self-care, and self-care starts with like our positive self-speak. So, and sometimes we're in such a dark place, we have to feel like we have to make it up. So it's like, what do we appreciate about ourselves? Our hair, our smile, our eyes, what we, accomplished in our life, that we are here and breathing, definitely that, God has a precious spirit within each of us. So like, what can we appreciate about us? We start there with gratitude for the day, gratitude for the air, clean air, whatever, sometimes, like I said, we have to make it up because we're not feeling it. So just let's find one thing that we can be grateful for, one thing that when we think about it, it makes us smile, and start there. We know that's not soft science. There's hard science around this, that improves our physiology. What makes us feel joyful or gives us, or when we think of something that is we can associate with joy or happiness, that impacts our physiology in that way. And we want that. So that's the first step, because I tell clients, especially if they're victim to or slave to cravings, we need to really start healing our physiology, because willpower is physiologic, right? So stop negative speaking about grabbing that extra cookie or whatever. We need to create disciplines and practices that support you. And then I call it getting my keto green way. So working to add lots of alkalinizers through healthy, low carbohydrate greens. So nourishing our body with the food we eat. And so lots of dark leafy greens. Start each day with a very low carb green smoothie that has some healthy fat in it, like a half avocado, quarter or half avocado, or some MCT oil, something that is brain fuel right off the start, that also will give us some breaking free of cravings. So we want to do that first thing in the morning. And then those alkalinizers are so important. In my online programs, Debbie, I have my clients check their urinary pH and ketones. So I just have these little urine pH and ketone strips that I created because I need to make life simple. But you don't have to get those. You can just get pH paper from any pharmacy or health food store and just check your urinary pH so that you can start working on that to get a urinary pH above 7, slightly alkaline. So that makes a difference. And my clients initially, like maybe 10% like testing. They're like, I like to see numbers. I like to see things move. But by the end of a couple of weeks, 90% of them love it. So just checking their urine to see, because it gives us information about how our emotions are affecting our physiology, how our food or nourishment could be affecting our physiology. And, sometimes we think we're doing everything right, but we're not seeing an improvement there. So little itsy bitsy steps.
And I love that, because during such a challenging time, this could be such a small win. We're looking for that win. We're looking to feel good about something. And even just seeing the percentage change from the stick, I mean, that's a good thing.
Yes. Yeah, absolutely. Okay. And you feel it. They start to feel it. So that makes a big difference. And then, so working through that nutrition and lifestyle components that can make a difference. So we have healthy morning rituals and then healthy evening rituals, just creating so that we can get that time to rest and restore while we're sleeping, which so many of us need. We need that deep restorative sleep. And that's where, especially if we're postmenopausal, I recommend certainly some adrenal adaptogens. I recommend bioidentical progesterone cream, and that can really help us restore. And when we are going through a stressful state, it is imperative, no matter, that we really support our body's natural hormone production in these ways.
And I'd love to address that a little bit, because the number one thing I hear is, Debbie, I am exhausted, but I can't sleep. I'm like sleepwalking through my day. I just can't get that rest. I wake up, I'm exhausted.
Yep. One of the questions I would ask my clients would be, do you wake up feeling rested? And it didn't matter like how many hours of sleep they got at night. If they didn't wake up feeling rested, that's a key. That's key that your body's not being allowed to do what it needs to do. So I talk about that in my book. One of the things I do is really encouraging ending your meal by 6 p.m. Because one thing is, when we eat after 7 p.m., that increases insulin, one of our major hormones that likes to drive chaos and store fat, right? So we just by eating around 6 p.m. or before 6 p.m. and making that dinner meal. The older we get, the lighter that dinner meal has to be. 100% believe it. Mm-hmm. But there's a traditional saying for millennia that has always been dinner, breakfast like a king, lunch like a nobleman, dinner like a pauper, right? Mm-hmm. And there's a reason. We don't need to be working to digest our food overnight. When women change that one thing, maybe make the evening a green shake or a bone broth or soup and salad, something light, and they allow their body to rest and rest overnight and repair, and it's not working on digesting, they wake up, they sleep sounder, and they wake up feeling better. So that little change can make a big difference. And
what I love about that too is when they're eating a little bit lighter, they're more willing to have that green smoothie that you suggested in the morning.
Yes.
Because they may be hungrier for it, because there are so many people who just are not hungry in the morning. But this may flip things around a bit.
For hormonal to change the way we live out our day, it has to start with a change in the morning. Mm-hmm. So if we're in this rut, we can't start out the morning the same way we always do. So sadly for me, I have to ditch my coffee periodically more than I like to, because it sets me down a more rutted, physiologically, it drives up cortisol, it's driving up insulin. Then I'm more likely not to stay committed to all the things I want to do. And especially if we have, fragile adrenals or, have had adrenal fatigue or hypofunction. So that pushes caffeine can really push our adrenals. So just switch it to a green tea, I make my Mighty Maca elixir in the morning. So,
and I've had that. It's delicious.
Thank you. Thank you. Yeah.
Sure.
So,
and what I love, and what's so interesting about this too is here you're saying you have to make a shift to see a shift and to feel a shift. And isn't that the same way when it comes to healing from trauma? You cannot bring the same you into this new version of you want to be. Things have to change, or you don't change. And something like your diet too, it has to change to feel that change.
Yep. Beautiful comparison. Absolutely. We have to shift. We have to change the way we speak to ourselves. That's the start. And then change up your morning routine really does give you more success and power over your day.
Beautiful. So Dr. Anna, what do you want to make sure everyone knows before we wrap up?
Well, I definitely want everyone to know that no matter what you've been through or what you're feeling right now, that don't give up hope. Do not give up hope. Every day forward is a new day, a new opportunity. And I love this quote from Anne of Green Gables. And I don't know why I thought about it right now, but it's the quote when Anne says, I'm looking forward to tomorrow because it's a day without mistakes in it yet.
Oh, I love that.
So I really feel that. And I really would encourage and welcome people to visit my website and please get a copy of my book. I really put my heart into it. You'll learn about my trauma. You'll learn about my coming into it and out of it, and just the information to really restore that balance and grace and peace in our life, no matter what we've been through.
Absolutely. So wonderful. And Dr. Anna, I know you've been through a lot, and you've come out of it just with such amazing insight and clarity and a gift to share what you've learned with other people. So give us your website.
At dranna.com. It's really easy, dranna.com.
Okay. I want to thank you so much. And everybody, that book is just unbelievable. We need that on our shelves for sure. Thank you, Dr. Anna.
Thank you, Debbie.
I love how Dr. Anna talked about things like gratitude, creating a more alkaline internal environment through food and lifestyle changes to shift how our hormones interact with us. Stay in touch with Dr. Anna and be sure to grab a copy of her book. Just go to dranna.com. Here's my biggest takeaway. As we move through the years and experiences of our lives, we can take on characteristics of the snake, the puma, and the condor. Life is filled with lessons that call us to grow and evolve, shed what no longer serves, so that we can become someone new. And just like changing our mental and emotional state, we can change our physical state too. And are things like exhaustion, excess weight, a feeling of disconnection, along with some other challenges preventing you from moving forward from your betrayal? See what symptoms are lingering by taking the quiz to see if you're struggling with post-betrayal syndrome at pbtinstitute.com/quiz. And let us support you. Go to Facebook and join our group, Women Hacking Betrayal, where we give information, tools, and support to help you move forward and heal once and for all. Can't wait to be with you next time, and here's to your breakthrough.